Hello. Today's video, you already saw it in the thumbnail, so not a mystery to you, but still, intro. My lovely brother, who is our personal chef, he came upstairs one day and brought me a casserole dish that was more or less broken. It had one crack in the middle, but still was hanging onto itself. And told me, you can make something out of anything, so do it. I took the casserole and put it somewhere and forgot about it. That was roughly a year ago. When he gave it to me, I thought, oh yeah, maybe something like a dark Madonna or something like that. And then I started sorting out my bedroom a little bit, and who did I find? The casserole. But it was broken into 3 pieces. What a shame. Still, I thought, let's finally do something with it. And then I thought, why not make a backdrop and maybe sculpt a vampire or something like that in there. A sleeping one, oh, you know, something like that. Or a skeleton. The death. Something spooky. I started sculpting and I just made a backdrop that I thought felt quite nice. So, you will see how it will end, how it works. Have fun, or something like that. Of course, before there was any sculpting, we needed to repair the pieces to get them back together. So I took out a all-purpose glue that has more or less a gel form and is supposed to keep things like that back together, and I glued it back in place. What a surprise! Who would have thought? To make everything extra secure, I then took out the bake and bond and basically drowned the base of the dish in it and covered that with some polymer clay, which took longer than I like to admit, and in the end still was not very even. But hey, it was covered. No cracks were able to be seen. I still was not entirely sure what I wanted to do with the background, so I thought, why not make something that has basically similarities to either a bat or Victorian wallpaper. So I started making this diamond hatched pattern, or diamond pattern, hatched lines, you know what I mean. I am doing it while I am talking, so you know what I did. And you might have noticed that I tried something with cling film at the start to get the pattern more even. Yeah, that didn't work, so that's why I removed it. You might have noticed what I did not at this point in time, that my lines are fairly uneven. I am still not sure how that was able to slip through my eyes, my vision, my idea, how I wasn't able to see that, or how I was able to unsee that, or whatever, you know what I mean. But yeah, we have to live with that now. The segments are not identical, but in the end it looked fine, I think, so we are okay with that. To have something similar to buttons in the center of all the lines where they meet, where they cross each other, I took out a little mold that is normally for nail design. It had little skulls on it, and yeah, just used it as a push mold and put some skulls everywhere. Some teeny tiny little charming skulls. When I took out the molds, I thought, why not use some cameos that I have that have some rib cages and everything on them as a centerpiece in each and every diamond cross thingamajig. That was not a great idea, so I decided not to do it and decided not to show the footage of it. But it basically was far too much. But I thought maybe I can give the individual diamond segments a little bit of texture by using lace. So I took out some lace that I had laying around, cut it to size, and yeah, just put it on there and try to push it into the polymer clay as good as possible. After I was done with all the diamonds, I already thought, maybe you are not able to see any of that in the end. But at least it gave me some structure. After the first bake, I was quite surprised how well everything was keeping up. So I started sculpting the rest of the idea I had so far. And that was basically just some vines on the top. I wanted to have vines with roses and thorns and leaves, haha. So I just rolled out some polymer clay and put down a bit of bacon bond and then put the first vine there. And yeah, I hate to say it, I did slightly regret that in the end, because even if I didn't do that many vines, that was a lot of vines. Very repetitive and boring. It was so boring. But at least for the leaves, I took my new favorite shortcut. Cookie cutters. I had them laying around for ages because I, for some reason, thought, why not make polymer clay flowers? And I did at least do 2 or 3 of them. And I filmed that because I wanted to review these cookie cutters, but never came around to do that or finish that video. So my review of the cookie cutter method with polymer clay, wonderful, do it. Makes everything far easier. But to have the leaves a bit more individual, I decided to at least make the vines or the veins of the leaf myself for each and every one. Yeah, quite boring as well. Ta-ta! To support the leaves and the vines, I used some rolled up aluminium foil. That's what it is. Yeah, just as I said, as a support. And then it was time for my new favorite thing. Making roses. Gosh, that is a rewarding thing. Rewarding thing. Gosh. You know what I mean. Basically, you just make one teardrop shaped thingamajig as the center of the rose, and then you form little balls, push them down to be petals. So just flatten them and make them as even as possible and wrap them around the center thing. And gosh, that looks pretty. They really look like roses. At least I think they really look like roses. And it's fairly simple. I might been fed up now because one of the future dolls, upcoming dolls, has a lot of these as well. But that's beside the point. Making roses. Quite nice. Just to say it. When I was done with the background, my brother came in and asked me if he could play some Cyberpunk on my PlayStation. And I told him about what I planned. And he was like, "You do pretty stuff all the time. Why don't you do something creepy?" So I started. Challenge accepted. Some time ago, I made a drawing of a creepy nanny thingamajig. I will put her up here so you have an idea what I meant. And I thought, this more or less torn open mouth and the Victorian dress and everything should work, but I wanted her to have a very large and ugly tongue and stuff like that. So I took out some beads because that worked so very well with my little witchy guy and started sculpting. Because it was the first time for me to sculpt something like this, I think I took it too far into the realm of cartoonish goodness. I do still think what I made in the end is definitely only semi-realism. But what I sculpted here was slightly too cartoonish for my taste. So I started again. But I still wanted to keep this process in, so you know where I failed and how often and everything and and goodbye. For the second head, I then decided as well that I don't want to use red eyes, but used white ones or white beads that had reddish, marbling, so it looked like veins in the eyes. And I decided to not do the slightly goofy tongue. So, we are missing that in the end. But I do think that when I compare the two to each other, the new edition or the new version was a good decision, because she is slightly more realistic and I would say slightly more creepy. If you like, I would find it interesting which of the two heads you think is more creepy. So, after this unpleasantness was done, I then had to sculpt a body for her, and I did that by making first a skeleton out of aluminium wire and putting some aluminium foil on top to bulk it up, but fairly little because I didn't want to bulk her up too much. And then I sculpted a fairly basic body on top. And the details really just came with rolling out polymer clay fairly thin and draping it kind of dress shaped. and then just stuffing some polymer clay at areas where I think or thought she needed some more support. That was basically the body. Fairly quick, rather easy, I would say. One of the easiest parts of this whole sculpt, so yay! Just so you know, if you haven't seen it by now, I decided to give her a fairly long neck that is quite twisted. To give it the appearance as if her head was more or less removed from the rest of her body, while the skin was just stretched. She reminded me slightly of the fairly interesting scene in Death Becomes Her, where Meryl Streep's neck gets quite long as well. Yeah, so that was something I thought I'd point out. Oh yeah, and I had massive issues with the hands, because I wanted them to be on the sides of the dish, and she was not fully supported by that. I tore them off again and again, so what started as slightly nice looking hands ended up as a mess. But in the end I embraced that and lived with it. For her hair, I was then able to finally use my new clay extruder. I always wanted one of those, never had one. Now I have one and I will never go back. It makes it so much easier. So, yeah. Basically, I just made little worms of clay with it and then stuck it onto her head until it resembled a halfway decent hairstyle. Because you are not able to see the back. I couldn't be bothered with making the back look good, so I just smushed it there where I thought it looked halfway decent. Ta-ta, ta-ta. Just to mention it, the skulls I used were just plastic, and I bought them at the local grocery store because they were in the area of Halloween decor. So I bought them and I thought they will do the trick. I don't need to sculpt them myself. So that is why I used pre-made sculpts. And yes, it does look like shortcuts is the theme of this video. I first tried to sculpt a skull and let's say I was not that successful, and as I said, I already had them, so why not use them? And I do think in the end they worked quite nice. I just put them in place with epoxy sculpt and then secured them with the vines. These are vines. That I draped on top, and yeah. And then I made one last rose because I thought the area left of her was slightly too empty, and yeah, I had to do something else with the epoxy clay. Blech. The bacon bond was not able to withstand being baked again and again. What a surprise. And why I am holding random Halloween props, I don't know. So I had to repair that quite frequently between bakes. That was not fun. In the end, I decided to keep everything together with epoxy clay, but yeah, at that point there was no struggle anymore because I would not put it into the oven again. So everything was baked, cured, cooled down and whatever. I then started painting the whole thing black to get a base coat. And while doing that I noticed that some of the roses were not staying in place. So I had to glue them in place. And then just slapped some black paint on it. As much as possible. Because my idea was base color black and then more or less a lot of crappy paint jobs. Just to get some color on there, but to have it mostly black. I think that is how you can say or phrase what I did here. And oh my gosh, did her eyes look creepy while she still was black? Oh my. Yeah, but in the end I decided for a rather light, rotten skin color. Yeah. I gloss over most of the paintwork, as I did in the end. What great kind of pun. Yeah. In the end I did some glossing, but most of it was just a protective layer of a matte varnish. The rest, the eyes and the teeth, were glossed with some glossy varnish. But then I was finally done with her. And I was quite happy about it. So let's take a look at the finished creepy dish girl. Here we have her. And in the end, just to bring this full circle, my brother informed me that she is fairly creepy, and you know, I already did some stuff like embroidery and to transform our hallway into a more witchy gothic aesthetic hallway, and I wanted to put this there. And my brother was like, yeah, she is fairly creepy. Do you really want to put her into the hallway? You don't want to put her into the hallway, do you? So he might have dared me to do something creepy, but I'm not allowed to display it. I hope you did enjoy this video, and we will see us in another one. So, until then, bye.